Hey guys, Killer here again with a what deck to play this week video. Once again, I'd like to preface the video with a couple things. One, if you really like this video series or any videos that I do, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe on the videos, as well as follow my Twitch and Twitter in the description below that you will see. So you'll see me talk live, basically, or see my Twitter and see things that I talk about when I post videos and all that stuff. Second, I want to state there are some formats that I haven't been really playing much this week or much recently, and those formats are Standard and Pioneer. Most of the other formats I've at least dabbled in a little bit, but those formats I'm going to have a little bit less knowledge. Therefore, just basically state what I had last week and what I've been told by people that I've talked to throughout the week that do play these formats. So with that out of the way, let us begin. I've been told, once again in Standard, people aren't really doing much innovating. It's close to rotation. Most of the people are studying up Historic for the Pro Tour that's going to be coming up. So many things have just stayed the same. Soul Tyrant basically still top dog. You've got some other decks like Teamer Adventures that are basically a a theme deck of adventures, Lucky Clover, Escape to the Wilds, all that good stuff. And you've got Mono Red Aggro, which try to cheese people out with Embercleave plus Annex. So, not much to be said about Standard. Decks have basically been staying the same. Things are going to be changing up soon with Zendikar coming out. But with it not coming out yet and not many Standard events on the horizon, people are not really trying to innovate a Standard that's going to be changing very soon. So, with that being said, if you got a Standard event for some reason, these are the three decks that I would play. And with that out of the way, let us move on to Pioneer. Another format that I have not been playing all that much, although I have been talking to people who have been playing a lot of it, and from what I've been told, there are a couple decks that stand out to me. Monarch Green Planeswalkers, pretty easy to play. You don't have to sideboard at all because you have a 100% wish board for Karn the Great Creator and Vivian Arkbow Ranger, so it's pretty easy that way. So if you haven't actually played Pioneer, pretty easy to set up, play a deck, draw one of your Land War Elves or Elvish Mystics, play them on turn 1, ramp for turn 2 again, and then play a Planeswalker and go from there. Pretty straightforward deck and pretty linear and good in the format. Another deck that you can be playing that's been a top dog is basically a port from Old Standard, Teamer Reclamation, Wilderness Wreck, Expansion Explosion, Uro, cards that support them. Not much to be said about this. And third of all, some aggro decks. You can be playing Mono Black Aggro. Has been doing really well in the hands of Bolvo or Tiago Saporito. A deck that I would say is very well-rounded, very straightforward. Play your 1-drop, play your Thoughtseize / removal spell, play another 1-drop, and then move your way up the curve. So, if I were to play one of these decks, I'd probably play Mono Green Planeswalkers, as I don't know much about sideboarding and exactly how to play out most of the decks, and that deck's incredibly straightforward and linear. Or I would play Mono Black Aggro if I wanted to be more on the aggro side of things rather than the ramp side of things. Another deck that you could be playing is Winota, the full cheese, try to play Eldritch Evolution or Winota by turn 3, get some Mangrass Marauders, kill your opponent. These are the decks that I would be playing just for the cheese factor, basically. But if you know a little bit more about the format, Teamer Reclamation, another great choice. There's also Red-Black / Jund Sack / Green-Black Sack. But I don't know much about the decks, I haven't really seen people play it much, so I would not suggest it unless you are invested into the format. Now, let us move on to Modern, a format that I've been playing mostly all of this week. Now, this is the deck that I would be playing. It is Mono Red Prowess, although if you have any Prowess variant that you like, I would just play that Prowess variant, because I think Modern boils down to 3 decks that I think are playable right now. Prowess in some sort, Mono Red, Blue Red, Red Black, those sorts of Prowess decks, basically centered around Monastery Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage, Light Up the Stage, Lightning Bolt, and some Lava Darts. Then you switch up some of the other types of cards you can play. Splash Black for some black cards, and Abbot of Carol Keep. Splash Blue for Sprite Dragon and Storming Entity, along with some other cards. But those are basically the premier aggro decks right now. And what I would consider another deck / macro archetype to be playing is Uro in some sort. This is Bant Uro, uses Feel the Dead, and Uro basically get to the late game, outgrind your opponent, basically have an unbeatable endgame with Uro and Feel the Dead. So this is the second macro archetype, which I would like to call the Uro decks. You can play Bant Uro, you can play Bug Uro, but basically it's all centers around Uro as your late game engine, as well as Field of the Dead. So these are 2 of the 3 archetypes that I think are good, and the third archetype I would say that is good is some sort of fast combo deck or uninteractive deck. That could be Boggles, Ad Nauseum, Neobrand, Storm not so much because it's a little bit susceptible to too many different things. But some sort of fast combo that's a little bit hard to interact with, especially for the red prowess decks of some sort, because I think the prowess decks are actually somewhat favored against the Uro decks. I think the Uro decks are somewhat favored against the combo decks. I think the combo decks are somewhat favored against the prowess decks. So this is kind of the circle that I think Modern is trending towards until we see some big shakeup in some way. Either an unbanning, a new card that shakes up a new archetype, or something along those lines. I basically think every other deck that doesn't fall into these three categories is tier 2 or tier 3 maybe. You can win with them, but I think that you are probably making a mistake playing them. So these are my 3 different archetypes basically to play, because there's different variations of the archetypes. You can really tailor it towards your idea, but I would either play some sort of fast combo that's uninteractive, prowess of some variant, or Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Those are the 3 archetypes that I would say to play in Modern. Personally, I'm going to be going on red aggro. I had very good Modern Challenge finisher with last week's 7-0 the Swiss. Lost a prowess mirror in the top 8, and I have some reasonable prelim results, some 3-2s and 4-1s, and good league results as well. Lots and lots of 4-1s and some 5-0s. Although I think this is a deck that is the best for me, as I'm not great at playing the Uro strategies or the all-in combo strategies, I'm going to be playing prowess, but if you're more tailored to the other strategies, I would be playing those. Now, let us move on to Legacy. I have not been playing that much Legacy, although I did play the Mana Traders series. I still think the top dog from what I've been talking to with some people, as well as what took down both Mana Traders and the big Mox event this weekend, Temur Delver, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Delver of Secrets, Oko Thief of Crowns, backed up by Daze, Force of Will. Kind of hard to go wrong with these cards. Incredibly powerful. If they are left alive, take over the game incredibly easily. Must deal with many must deal with answers in this shell, along with very much the ability to deal with other things in the form of Daze, Force Negation, Force of Will, Ponders, Brainstorms, Preordains, and all that stuff to find your answers with the removal spells of Lightning Bolts and 3 colors worth of sideboard cards. Basically just the top dog, and will be the top dog, I think, for a long time until something changes about the format. Some other decks that I think are playable as well as fun. Espervile, I think it has a fine Delver matchup, though I don't think anything realistically has a great Delver matchup, but I'm a big fan of this deck. Very fun to play, very slow, so if you're not used to it, it is a high chance of timing out. But it's a great and fun deck to play. I had a lot of fun with it. I will not personally be playing it this weekend because you can't do multiple queues, and even with just streaming and playing this deck, it's a little bit hard on the time. Deck that I would like to play is Hogak. Supposedly has a fine to good Delver matchup. Graveyard deck. I like playing big cheesy decks in Legacy. Another deck that I could see myself playing, Dredge, kind of like Hogak in the same vein where you're just trying to cheese some people out. Or I could play something like Mono Red Prison, another cheese Chalice of the Void Blood Moon deck. All of these are like tier 2/3 choices, I would say. If you're trying to tier 1 it up, just play Temur Delver or like maybe Snow at best. Those are the 2 decks that I think are like the top dogs right now, and what I would suggest playing in Legacy. Now let us move on to Vintage. Vintage is kind of in a weird spot right now. We're kind of going around in a like play some sort of Bazaar of Baghdad deck. Okay, Bazaar's really good this week. Now we're going to go to Fast Combo to combat the Bazaar decks. Okay, the Fast Combo is really good this week. Next week we're going to go to Xerox style decks with 4 main deck Pyroblast, some Meddling Mages, or some random anti-combo cards in the sideboard. Okay, that's really good this week. And then we go back to Bazaar beating up on all the Xerox blue decks. So we're kind of going in a circle. Last week I think Bazaar was really good, so I think this week combo, fast combo of some sort, either Blue-Black Tendrils of Agony, Paradoxical Outcome, Doomsday, all these decks I think are great choices this week. Personally, I'm going to be on Ravager's Shops as another deck that I think can do well against the Xerox, or not the Xerox, sorry, the Bazaar decks. Mostly because I just have had fun playing this deck for a long time, and I don't necessarily think it's the best. I think it's tier 2 at best, but I also think people have been skimping on some of their artifact removal in favor of more dredge hate and combo hate, because Doomsday and Underworld Breach have been on the up and up. But if you were to play this week, I think, and have no Vintage knowledge, playing Bazaar of Baghdad, pretty easy for most people, and Shops, also another good one, this in particular. If you're playing Shops, make sure you mulligan to a hand that either has like multiple Moxen, Soul Ring plus a land, or Mishra's Workshop. If you don't have your mana and you're not doing something powerful on turn 1/turn 2, that's very powerful, highly suggest mulliganing. It's a hard deck to play in the sense that it's not necessarily intuitive for the mulligans, and how to play cards like Phyrexian Invoker and sequence your hate pieces. But once you get those basic concepts down, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to play. So those would be my picks for Vintage. Finally, on to Pauper. I think Tron is probably just tier 0 at this point. I've played against it a lot with decks that I think should be beating it, and I'm just getting trounced. So I think if you have knowledge and are not multi-queuing, Tron is a very good deck to play. Though if you are multi-queuing or don't have that much knowledge about the format, most people gravitate towards Burn, although I think Burn is basically less than 50% against all matchups in Pauper. So if you don't want to have less than 50% against all matchups in Pauper, I would suggest playing Affinity. It plays somewhat the same style as Burn, trying to kill your opponent quickly. Also has combo kills with Atog and Fling to kill as early as turn 4, sometimes even turn 3, depending on how your start was. And I think this deck basically plays the same way as Burn, as it's an aggressive deck, but can also play a long game with Thoughtcast, Witching Well, and Prophetic Prisms and the such, as well as just putting like 4/4s on the... Sometimes you just gonna go like early Carapace Forger 4/4, and then some Mirren Forces, and then some Gear Shaper Servants, and it's just a lot for your opponent to deal with how the removal suites are tailored in Pauper right now. So this is a deck that I think is very good as well, a deck that I will probably be playing this weekend. But if I have the time and I'm single queuing, I will probably queue up Tron of some sort, as I've played it in the past and have some format knowledge. I hope you guys liked this video and gives you some insight into the formats. Either you've played them, or maybe just a little bit of insight as you've already played them, or maybe I'm just talking through my ass for some of these formats. But I'd like to think I gave you some amount of useful information on at least one of these 6 formats. And if I did, make sure to give me a like and subscribe on the video. Follow my Twitch and Twitter in the description below. We can talk some more live when I stream on Twitch this weekend. And thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week for what decks to be playing this week. Bye-bye.